Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Wim Lu. This is the Reaction Podcast presented by Betway for all your sports betting needs. Hit the QR code below that you see on the video here, or go in the description of the YouTube or the podcast link and go with friends of the program. Betway. Raptors win tonight 119-93 against a very, very sad Pelicans team. I don't even have it in my heart to slander them. This is a team that is so banged up. Half the broadcast, Matt Devlin's talking about how the Pelicans have the option to waive Zion Williamson because they have a clause in his contract to do so. Brandon Ingram's on the last year. He's getting traded, hopefully. The rest of the roster just completely banged up. CJ McCollum going out there and just, I don't know, man. It was really, really tough. DeJounte Murray coming back from injury. And I know he was just working his way back in, but my goodness, that was one of the worst games I've seen from anybody. And yeah, the Raptors, though, on the flip side, were able to come through, play a very cohesive effort. Outside of the first quarter where the Raptors really, really settled, I thought, for a lot of threes that, ultimately they did have a great strategy here of like beating the Pelicans from the outside, and the Pelicans definitely took away the paint. If anything was good for the Pelicans, it was their rookie Yves Missi, who was able to protect the basket in a decent way. And, the Pelicans in general did a good job of plugging up the lanes. But the Raptors, I think, settled for a few too many threes, a lot of pull-up threes from Scotty, I thought, in the first quarter that just felt like not enough downhill action was generated, or, it just felt like settling. And it was a very ugly first quarter where I think the Raptors were up 21-20, if I remember correctly. I've already put away this box score, unfortunately. But, yeah, I mean, the Raptors, though, had no problem scoring the rest of the way. Yeah, it was 21-20 for the Raptors. Rest of the way, Raptors beat the Pelicans 35-26 in the second, and then 31-17 in the third quarter. Raptors ended up the night with a season-high 21 made threes, and that is despite some poor shooting performances, like Jacoby Walter going 2 of 10, although he did make his first career start, and he actually did have a pretty good game, so I'll talk about him quite a bit. Scotty Barnes ends up going 2 of 12 from 3, which is obviously not ideal, but it certainly helps when the rest of the guys come up huge. And you got Jameson Battle first off coming off the bench, going 6 of 8 from deep, 24 points for Jameson Battle. His first career 20-point night for the undrafted rookie. Just looks spectacular out there. And he was actually the guy who got the Raptors their first couple of threes, mostly by coming in the game and being in the corners and just waiting for the passes from the rest of the team, playing a really good system ball, where the Raptors were able to sort of drive, collapse, and then kick it to the corners. Once they got that formula down, the rest of the team started following suit. Ochai Agbaji, fresh off of getting called out by Darko Rajakovic after last night's game, or last game on, what was it, Monday? When Darko, called him out for the fact that he had 0 points and just overall had a really, really poor effort. And he's been slowing down the last couple games. Ochai responds in a big way, 24 points for him, a season high for him, including 9 of 10 shooting from the field, including 6 of 7 from 3. So just an ultra efficient night. And the big catalyst there was RJ Barrett being able to get downhill with that second unit there and creating that downhill pressure, collapsing the defense, and then kicking out to Ochai in the corners. Of course, that also helps when Ochai shoots 6 of 7 from 3. I mean, like, that also certainly helps. Even RJ, I thought, has been really in a shooting funk. Had a couple of takes early in this game that just weren't particularly great, forced a little bit going to the basket, but he settled in eventually, and then he went 3 of 7 from 3 as well. That's a pretty good mark for RJ. Overall, he actually finished with a pretty efficient night, with 22 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, so narrowly missing out on his second triple-double of the season. And, just in general, the bench coming in and looking strong. I thought, Jamal Shed in the minutes that he got too, he looked pretty good. Overall, just the Raptors were able to really start clicking and blow the Pelicans out the water. One of the craziest stats, because Jameson Battle, I think, hit a 3 to put the Raptors up 87-57, and that led New Orleans to calling a timeout. And during that timeout, I'm looking at the score. I'm like, wait, wow, the Raptors are up 30. Like, I wonder when the last time the Raptors held a 30-point lead. So I hit up the number one Raptor statistician in the game, Kirtika, and I hit her up. I asked her, like, when was the last time the Raptors were up by 30? And her answer was, it's been 279 days since the Raptors established a 30-point lead at any point in any game. And I was like, wow, that is a very long time. And that is essentially 9 months of basketball. or at least of time. And yeah, the last game the Raptors actually had a 30-point lead, I believe, is February 22nd, 2004. Raptors beat the Brooklyn Nets 121-93. And yeah, I mean, that is 45 games ago where the Raptors had a 30-point lead. So I think it's just in general a really impressive effort by the team. A really, really fun game to sort of go down and just like shower the team with praise. A lot of good vibes. Got Davion Mitchell crashing 2 separate interviews from Kayla Gray. Neither time was he invited, but both times he made himself a presence. And just great vibes all around. And yeah, by the way, if you have questions, please leave them for us in the live chat. It's one of the big reasons why you should be trying to watch these lives as much as possible, because you get to engage with the program. So please leave your questions. We'll get to those as always in the second half of the program. And of course, this will be your first reminder, probably of 3. I'm going to remind you 3 times, but just hit the like button if you are watching this, especially if you're watching live. That really helps the channel grow quite a bit. So just go ahead and do that. Go ahead and leave some questions. And we'll start with the rookie, Ja'Kobe Walter, who gets his first career start. It's funny because this is not the plan for Ja'Kobe coming into this road trip. Raptors are on a 4-game road trip. They're going to spend Thanksgiving tomorrow, either with family or with each other. Who knows? But they will be on the road. They're going to play Miami, and then they're going to come home. But the Raptors had a 4-game road trip that they embarked on, and they had actually not brought Ja'Kobe Walter for the road trip. The reason for that was because, well, number one, that the minutes were going to be a little bit scarce, and more than anything else, Ja'Kobe, due to the fact that he's had this recurrence of the shoulder, injury that kept him out of preseason, that kept him out of the start of the season, and then he came back and played 2-3 games, and then he got hurt again on the same shoulder. He's missed a lot of time, and so the Raptors kept him behind with the Raptors 905, and it worked out because the Raptors 905 were able to play their home opener last weekend, 2 games against the Long Island Nets. And so Ja'Kobe was down there for those 2 games. Of course, what happened during the road trip was that Grady ends up suffering a bit of a calf injury. He's got a calf contusion that's kept him out of the last 2 games here. And so the Raptors recalled Ja'Kobe. And then this game, the Raptors actually put him into the starting lineup. Now, I think it was a cool move for multiple reasons. Number one, this has been a league-wide trend where teams are bringing in their rookies to play alongside of their starting lineups. You saw the Lakers do that with Dalton Connect. You saw the Cavs do that recently with Jalen Tyson. You saw just a variety of that. I mean, the Pelicans starting Yves Missi is because of the injuries, but still that's also happening as well. And I think one of the benefits of starting your rookie with your starting lineup is that it actually really allows them to get into a bit of an easier rhythm, I feel like, because there's other creators around them, especially for a guy like Ja'Kobe, who's mostly in the game for his shooting, mostly in the game for his energy. It's a lot more simple to sort of play off of great players rather than coming off the bench and sort of finding your rhythm. Also, on the flip side, it gives the Raptors nice balance because the Raptors have obviously started Grady Dick this season in every game that he's been available in. And then they brought in Jameson Battle to be the backup at the shooting guard position for them. And sort of like that's sort of been their rhythm. Well, especially now with Grady out, it's like one of those 2 guys should start. And honestly, Jameson has a good chance to start too. I mean, he's clearly been shooting the ball great, but I like the fact that they actually turned to Ja'Kobe to start for the team. Now, of course, you get to start. You also have to deliver. And, as much as the Pelicans were, just really, really sad. I mean, like, damn, they look really sad. I feel so bad for them. But, you're still out there to guard like CJ McCollum and DeJounte Murray. That's still their backcourt. And at least on paper, that's still a pretty, tough backcourt for a rookie to contend with. But I thought Ja'Kobe settled in immediately. Literally the first play of the game, I forgot who drove the ball, kicked it to Ja'Kobe in the corner. He knocked down the 3. And then the next play down, he was guarding DeJounte Murray, late shot clock. I think he got a deflection. Murray ends up having to heave up a 3, and he forced an air ball. And it's like, that literally cannot be a better start for a rookie in his first ever start in the pros, is to knock down a corner 3 and then to force an air ball. Now, of course, there were like a little bit more up and down moments as the game went on, but what never wavered for me, number one, was Ja'Kobe's energy. The fact that he recorded a double-double tonight was really impressive. Obviously, the Pelicans missed a bunch of shots, but still, Ja'Kobe ends up snatching 11 rebounds. That's the second highest on the team, only to Scotty Barnes. He was really active, just chasing down loose balls and at one point diving on the floor to keep possession. Just in general, I thought he like showed a lot of energy and sort of quick twitch athleticism. He's not he's kind of scrawny right now, but at the same time, you could tell that he's like stronger than maybe his frame suggests. And then also that he's just like getting into scenarios by jumping in, and he hasn't played all season, so I kind of like expect him to have a lot of energy, and he's a rookie too, but he really was like flying all over the floor and really noticeable. And I can live with lots of mistakes, especially from rookies, as long as you play hard. And this is the kind of game that like a young Pascal Siakam would have done, right? Also, another example of a guy who, as a rookie, played with the starting lineup due to injuries with the team at that time. But like Pascal was in the game strictly for energy, and they were feeding him for just transition layups. Luckily with Jacoby, I mean, he's a shooting guard, so he's got more skill than just transition layups. So you saw him drive in and cut in for a couple of plays. You saw him make probably the play of the night for me, which was Scotty threw him a pretty ambitious lob over the top. The Pelicans seemed like the Raptors are really trying to throw the pass over the top in this game. And Scotty didn't even necessarily see that Jacoby had a step on his guy. I think he just saw that Jacoby was taller than who was defending him. And Scotty threw him a pass. But the thing is, the pass led him to the opposite side of the lane. And so in order for Jacoby to catch it, he would have to jump across the lane to sort of catch it midair over the top of the shorter defender. But in the process of that, he gets bumped, so he's fouled, but Jacoby throws it up over his head, and somehow that falls in. So, like, kind of a circus shot, really. So, like, I just thought in general, Jacoby showed you quite a bit. Now, of course, like, him going 2 of 10 from 3 is something that you would like to see him improve on. That's the nature of jump shooting, is that, you're going to have some, like, ups and downs. And, more than anything else, I think that none of the 10 were, like, ill-advised threes. I also thought that he actually played within the offense decently. There's a couple moments where he turned down a semi-contested 3 to sort of make the swing pass to someone else with a better shot. He had 5 assists tonight, which was quite good, 2 steals. Like, honestly, Jacoby was awesome. Didn't look out of place at all with the starting lineup. And clearly he's a guy who's going to start probably as a corner 3-point shooter, but he can handle the ball just a little bit as well. He's able to drive it just a little bit too. He's wiry, but he's strong. And then he's got the quick twitch athleticism to sort of get to these loose balls. And I think like you can't necessarily expect him to go out there and put 14 and 11 and 5 up every single night, because of the fact that like the Pelicans are just like a very special case. They are certainly one of the worst teams in the league right now, if not the worst team in the league right now. Actually, that's not true. Washington, I think, has lost like 13 games in a row. But like, still, I thought Jacoby played really well. And I thought I was actually a pretty shrewd move by Darko to sort of like hop on that trend of sort of like teams around the league starting their rookies and giving him the chance to sort of settle in. He played really well, and I'm really, really happy and proud for Jacoby. And I know the Raptors front office was super high on him, and I think they were very surprised that he was available at 19. So good start for Jacoby, and we'll see. I mean, again, if Grady continues to miss time, I wouldn't mind seeing more of Jacoby in the starting lineup. And he just has to do exactly what he does here: shoot the 3 with confidence, play with energy, try to give it all your on the defensive end, and just play within the offense. Don't force too much. I think Jacoby, when he was at Baylor, certainly had to sort of like had the bigger pressure to create shots, and that led to like I think a lower percentage overall. It did lead him to getting to the foul line more. That's the one thing that really did stand out from him as a rookie or as a sophomore, was he got to the foul line quite a bit. And so, that's a rarer skill. And I think that kind of stands out, especially when you look at like the statistical modeling of these prospects. I don't know. But like, yeah, I thought Jacoby forced it just a little bit. But I mean, with the starting 5, he doesn't need to force it. Like, other guys are going to get him the ball and he's going to deliver. So I thought that number 1 was really good. Number 2, I was really interested to see how Ochai Agbaji was going to respond. Darko did obviously make the comments post game after the Raptors lost to who did they play the last game, man? The Pistons. Yeah, the Pistons, a 2-point game. Jaden Ivey hits the game winner over Ochai. That's the second time Ochai had to stare down a game-winning dagger. The other one was Jason Tatum pulling up for 3. Although, to be fair, Jason Tatum like literally did a 2C slide before he like actually pulled up for 3. That should have been a travel. But still, like, that was literally, there's been 4 buzzer beaters around the NBA this season, and somehow 2 have come against the Raptors, and both have come against Ochai Agbaji. To make matters worse, Ochai had 0 points in that Pistons game, and I just thought I was pretty critical of Ochai as well. Him and RJ, I thought, were the 2 biggest culprits of that loss. And Darko calls out Ochai. So how's Ochai going to respond? And Ochai did really, really well. I mean, tonight, nothing that different. I mean, we've seen Ochai play this type of game in terms of the shots. He was just making a lot of those. But I like that he was confident, looking for the three. I like that, a couple of times he was able to drive the ball, take a strong in transition. It's just, look, it's funny because he is like the fifth option in most lineups. And so, like, you're not necessarily expecting the fifth option to be that involved. But at the same time, it's like, him relocating, sliding from like the corner up to like the break, just to like, depending on sort of the angle of the drive and where the help is coming from, stuff like that. Like, I think he made himself available in the subtle ways to sort of free himself for passes. And I thought the biggest, presence for Ochai was just the game that RJ played. The Raptors actually started this game really slowly. Like I mentioned, they were settling for a lot of threes. They were missing a bunch of threes as well. Raptors tonight took 52 threes. That may be a franchise record, honestly. We'll have to look that up. But, like, certainly it was a lot of threes. But the start of the game, the Raptors were really, really bricking them from three. And I didn't like the type of shots that they were getting. And so, like, when it was RJ with the second unit, so I think Scotty was off the floor, there was a lot of RJ trying to take it strong to the basket. The Pelicans, like I mentioned, were collapsing quite a bit, helping from the corners. And RJ did a really good job of just like three straight times collapsing the paint and kicking out to Ochai. And those 3 threes got Ochai into a great rhythm, got Ochai into a halftime interview with Kayla, which, by the way, I guess that's a new feature this year with the halftime interviews. But, he was certainly playing really well. And shouts to Kayla for the reporting too, that she had mentioned that she had caught up with Ochai. It must have been this morning at shoot around, but and asked him about the fact that, like, how do you feel about being called out by Darko? And he was like, absolutely. Like, he actually really appreciated it. He said that nobody's harder on Ochai than Ochai himself, and so he holds himself to a high standard. He knows the last couple of games he's been slipping. I mean, it's been pretty obvious. And he comes back out here with a really resilient performance. I thought defensively also gave a better effort too. His primary assignment tonight was guarding DeJounte Murray. Murray did get it going a little bit towards the end of the third quarter. He knocked down 2 threes and like had a driving layup or something. But like ultimately 5 of 17 and just like a truly, truly destructive performance. I know he's working himself back into like rhythm, but like 17 shots as the point guard with 2 assists is just crazy. Like, and it was bad shot selection too. But at the same time, Ochai did a great job of just contesting and staying in front of DeJounte. So I thought Ochai just, bounced back in a really nice way. Again, like his offense will come and go, just in the sense that, like, it's very rare that he's creating his own offense. To the extent in which, like, he can create some of his own offense is just to like relocate a little bit, or to cut a little bit harder, or to like time his, cuts a little bit better. But in general, though, I thought that, he shot the ball with confidence, and he was certainly out there tonight to sort of deliver some sort of response. So I'm happy for Ochai, and I'm hoping that his strong season continues, because he has had a really strong season to this point. And just because he's had a slow week doesn't necessarily have to change the trajectory of his year. He's been pretty good. I think number 3, Jameson Battle. I mean, Jameson Battle, man. I mean, like, damn. He just couldn't miss. Like, he literally couldn't miss. 24 points for Jameson off the bench in 22 minutes, 9 of 11 from the field, 6 of 8 from the 3-point line. I think, similar to the rest of the team, like, Jameson is obviously a guy that's going to rely on other people to set him up. But at the same time, I thought he actually took advantage of the fact that Grady's been out. And so where do those opportunities come from? So if you've been watching this season, most of the Raptors out of bounds plays, whether they're inbounding from the sideline, but especially from the baseline, they run a lot of actions to get Grady Dick coming off of screens and then getting free, usually on that baseline area near the ball where he's cutting towards the ball and then shooting from there or making a decision from there. You saw like 2 or 3 times today the Raptors running plays specifically for Jameson Battle in that scenario, and he knocked down a couple of shots in that sort of situation. Obviously, you got a couple of extra baskets towards the end as well. The Pelicans were really falling apart, and he got a couple easy ones. But he also got like some really good looks from 3, and he made himself available. He's certainly a guy who is going to shoot with confidence. He's been doing that this whole entire time since he's come into the Raptors orbit. I think, honestly, like, huge credit to the Raptors scouting staff for identifying Jameson Battle, who obviously went undrafted, didn't have a big college profile. The only maybe standout thing was like, okay, he led the nation in free throw percentage, but like this took some like scouting to find Jameson Battle, who was not playing at a big school necessarily either. for them to bring him into their summer league setting, for them to give them the incentive to come to training camp, for them to like keep Jameson Battle coming out of training camp. Because if you remember about a month and a half ago when the Raptors season started, they didn't even have a spot for him. So, they were able to sort of give him the spot. Is that true? Did they give him the spot? Maybe they gave him the two-way afterwards. My point is, though, like, he's still on a two-way. Like, the standing wasn't, like, completely set. Raptors had to cut a couple of guys. And, like, they obviously chose to keep Jameson. This season, they've used Jameson, like, as part of the rotation every single game. And I think he's really delivering for them. I mean, tonight is obviously, like, a standout performance when he goes 24 points and he's red hot. But, like, the Raptors have really need a shooting specialist. And he's a guy who, at his size, he's not like too small to get a shot off, right? I think that was the issue with like a guy like Matt Thomas, who they signed in previous years. It was like his shot just like, I mean, his shot was wet. There's no doubt. Like watching a Matt Thomas shooting warm up was actually like a true gift. But like the guy was like 6'2", so it's like harder for him to get his shot off. Jameson's taller, so he can guard up a little bit too. But then also like, they've really invested in sort of growing his game and sort of like getting him, more and more ready to sort of play at the speed of the NBA. And last time I was at practice, like, Darko came to speak with us in the media scrum. And as soon as that was over, he immediately went to the nearby basket where Jameson was working on like basically he was working on like curling around a screen to catch and shoot for three. And Darko literally immediately hopped in and started demonstrating like his specific posture about like how he should bend his knees, how he should the footwork on the catch. I mean, and things that probably Jameson has already learned a lot about as a shooter, but at the same time, it's just an example of how much they've really tried to sort of like invest in his growth. And yeah, it's, as a two-way, like, I mean, look, eventually the Raptors going to go up on the 50 days on 50 games on the two-way, and they're going to have to sign him and convert him. And of course, the Raptors going to make a decision at that point. But like, I'm more than happy to do that. Jameson has been great this season, and to get a shooting specialist who is legitimately like a really, really knockdown shooter is good. And yeah, I mean, tonight I'm just really happy for him. He got a lot of open looks, and yeah, I mean, ultimately, like the reason why some of these 3-point shooters got open looks is because the Raptors' offense ran a lot more smoothly. I mean, the first quarter aside, that was really terrible, but like seeing, Scotty get into a good rhythm, seeing RJ get into a good rhythm. Scotty ultimately shoots 7 of 23, which is obviously not good. He also got hit in the face 2 times, which like, I mean, maybe it's because he's got the orbital bone injury, but like, and he's wearing the goggles, but it really is very funny to me because like, not funny. It's just like, it's very noticeable now because like every time he gets hit, it's like you're scared. You're watching it and you're scared. But it's like, how many times does an NBA player actually get hit in the face over the course of a game? Like, it's starting to make me realize just how much contact, just goes on and just in an average game. But yeah, I thought, Scotty once Scotty started getting downhill, and then like whatever, first quarter was clearly not a good one for him. But like, when he started getting into a good rhythm, when I think in the third quarter, I thought Scotty played really well as well. Obviously they able to set up guys. The throw ahead passes from transition were good. The passes out of the double teams were good. I mean, again, when guys are hot too, it's easy to sort of swing and kick out. But I think for me, like, I just want to see Scotty like actually take it and drive the ball until there's a double team and then swing, right? Sometimes it feels like, especially at the start of the game, he felt like, okay, the paint's really clogged. I got to sort of unlock it with a couple of pull-up threes. I know he said that that's one of his favorite shots, but like ultimately that's not a high percentage shot, especially early in the clocks and stuff like that. Like it's just letting the defense off the hook. Like he's got so many gifts where he can like put pressure on the defense, get into the middle of the paint, be a screener, be a cutter, like, you know what I mean? Like all these things. And even when he's a driver, get a little bit lower, take the extra couple dribbles, obviously you got to like take a little bit more punishment by, getting more physical and dominating. But like teams are throwing double teams at Scotty. And at that point, it's just like, of course, you trust him to make the right feeds and right deliveries. And I thought he did a good job with that. Basically, between the end of the first half and the third quarter, I didn't see him in the fourth quarter, basically because the Raptors didn't really need him to, for the most part. I mean, that game became a real blowout. But he played pretty good after a slow start. RJ Barrett, I thought, actually really recovered quite well as well. And I think that there's going to be this ongoing like rebalancing in terms of like the Raptors offense. I think that like, Scotty coming back certainly is going to change a lot of sort of how this team works. For example, I think one of the signs is that Jakob Poeltl went from like 2 weeks ago. He's Shaka Poeltl. He's got 30 and 20. You know what I mean? Like he's got like multiple 30-point games, and he was a huge contributor. And now like in this game, he goes 1 of 4 from the field, and he's like literally barely even touching the ball. I think what that tells you is that, I mean, not to like completely let Jakob off the hook, like I didn't think he played a great game, but like he's not as involved. I mean, Jakob was super involved, especially when Scotty was out. They played through a lot of Jakob in the post, but most importantly, they played through him as a pick and roll player. And the Raptors are shifting to a much more pick and roll oriented offense, especially led by RJ with Jakob coming to get the screen. You look back at the Boston game when they lost that game in OT, but that game was like him and RJ combined for like 69 points. You know what I mean? Like literally half of the point total, more than half of their point total. And it was a lot of like pick and roll to get RJ a step, to get him downhill, and then like either Jakob, catching and floating, catching and finishing, or like going for offensive rebounds. You're not seeing the same downhill drive as much right now with the Scotty Barnes led offense. And so I think that's just an adjustment period. Like I think people are like, maybe it's because we haven't seen this group play enough together. So like the sample size isn't big, and it's like hard to sort of like group yourself in like what it should be versus like what it actually is, because the sample size is small. So you're kind of overreacting almost to like a hot game here or a cold game here. But like there is absolutely a balance that needs to be struck, right? And I think that like in the moments when you went back to sort of the simpler versions of like RJ getting a screen, going downhill, playing pick and roll, like that made RJ look better. That made the corner 3-point shooters look better because he was getting into the paint, the help was coming, and he was making the right passes. And then of course, like Jakob typically gets some benefit from that. I think RJ did feed Jakob for the one reverse layup, but I think the thing with Scotty is just like he can do a lot of that same thing too, but at the same time, it's just like finding a different way. And I think typically with Scotty, like he's trying to like a team switch a lot. I feel like against Scotty, they're really trying to prevent him from getting downhill, so they'll switch to sort of like avoid him getting that momentum going downhill. But also Scotty's not as ardent of a driver as RJ is. He's not as insistent of a driver as RJ is. But that's okay because Scotty has other skills that he can sort of work off of. And once he's got the mismatches, whether he gets off the ball, gets into the post, or he attacks those mismatches, like that's all kind of fine. It's just going to take the team just a little bit of time to find that right rhythm again, because it doesn't feel like clearly, like especially in the last couple of weeks, it's been Grady coming off of screens, Grady as a number one option on baseline, sideline, out of bounds plays, coming out of timeouts. Grady, playing a lot of like, just not on the ball, but he would be near the ball as one of the screeners. Raptors ran a lot of Spain pick and roll, which is a screener pick and roll, or they just had regular pick and roll. And it was a lot of RJ being able to distribute and feeling comfortable, right? Like, and that felt relatively predictable in the sense that like everyone kind of knew their roles. Now with Scotty coming back in, there is more freelancing. There is more like he's got to figure out sort of what his spots are again, how the teammates are going to be spacing out around him, the pace that he wants to play at, and there's just little eccentricities. Like those things are just going to work themselves out. Like don't panic right now. I mean, right now, actually tonight, to be honest, they actually end up both playing pretty good games between Scotty and RJ, but there will be games when like one of them doesn't play well, like the Pistons game where Scotty played amazing and RJ played terrible. And there'll be other games where like RJ's super involved and Scotty's like not that involved. I think the I guess Timberwolves game was like that. But like they're just gonna have to figure it out, and they got to get into a good rhythm. Ultimately speaking, having more creators is exactly what the Raptors needed, because in those games, it was like, surprise, it wasn't that difficult to take away an RJ Barrett led offense, nor was it that difficult to take away a Grady Dick led offense. So they're gonna have to find the right balance. The thing that I'm watching for too is like how much those two guys play off of each other. What the starting lineup right now, Scotty's mostly playing point guard, so that almost is like forcing him to play way more on the perimeter. I wouldn't even mind honestly if like I guess Davion with Scotty doesn't really seem to have like that much chemistry for me, just because like um yeah, I don't know. I mean, Davion, offensively just like isn't going to contribute that much right now. But like I don't even mind Scotty as the play initiator, but like I think some sequences where you can get Scotty in the post and you can sort of like get Jakob curling, or get RJ curling off of Jakob and then Scotty feeding him, that's not bad. Or like Scotty runs a pick and roll with Jakob. Maybe there's hopefully there's a little bit downhill pressure where it causes the defense to sort of like shift one way, and then you can hit the other side, and RJ can curl off the other side and attack from the other side. Like there's other things you can do. Certainly they got a good connection in transition. I don't worry about that ever. But like I think there should be other sort of sequences for them to play off of each other. The other thing too that's key is like, okay, if one of them is not as involved that night, how much other things are you going to be able to contribute? And that's where I'm never worried about Scotty, because he's going to give you the defense, the rebounding, the playmaking, all that kind of stuff. With RJ, it's like sometimes if he's not the focus, he might not be able to contribute with the defense, or he might not be able to contribute with the other things. And it's just like, but why not? You know what I mean? Like some nights it's just not going to necessarily be about him, but at the same time, he can't let that mean that he's now invisible. That was my issue with the Pistons game. I mean, he forced it a little bit too, but like ultimately he just became invisible, and defensively it was a minus. I think it's up to RJ then to find the balance to be able to contribute defensively, and also with rebounding and playmaking as well. But ultimately tonight was a really good game, man, and a lot of strong performances from everybody involved. We're going to take a quick break before we get to your questions. We want to bring in a new sponsor for this program. But on the other side, we will be taking those questions. So this is your last call, actually, to get more questions in and also to like the stream. So without further ado, we're going to bring you a new presenting sponsor.
Hey, Will, the holidays are coming up, man. What you got planned?
Probably going to do some shopping. Great time to get some gifts for your loved ones, and that's what we're doing here today. What are you going to do, Alex?
Yeah, I'm a real grown adult, so I've got a lot of responsibilities to worry about, including taking care as a homeowner of this podcast. I have to think about my mortgage all the time. So for people that have a mortgage up for renewal, lock in the best rates and products with Dominion Lending Centers. Visit www.dominionlending.ca.
There you go. Shout out to Dominion Lending, and hopefully I'll be at a point in my life where I can get a mortgage. Okay, so next we will be taking your questions, and it is time now for the Tangerine fan inbox. And I wanted to remind you that Tangerine is a foundational partner of WNBA Canada and NBA Canada, and also that Tangerine, for the Raptors' 30th season, is looking to feature fans like yourself. They're fans of fans who have their own nickname for each guy in the starting five, fans who stand 5 inches from the TV all game, fans who are going out there and buying a 77 Jameson Battle jersey. Actually, that would be kind of sick to own a 77 Battle right now, especially based on the way you played. But if you're hearing this and if you're watching this right now, there's certainly no doubt in your commitment. Fans like you are at the heart of what makes this game great. So this year, for the Raptors' 30th anniversary, Tangerine is turning the spotlight from the court to the stands and celebrating the way Raptor fans support their team, because this is how we fan. To learn more, visit tangerine.ca/basketball. Shout out to Tangerine. They've always been such huge players in the basketball space in Canada. Okay, Tangerine fan inbox time. What are the questions? First one, Gimme Mo Mogbo asks, are the Raptors sneakily a deeper team than expected, given the next man up mentality these younger players have been showing? Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, like, it's been really exciting this season to get a chance to see so much of these young guys play, because in an average season, rookies do not get this much time. And obviously some of the credit goes to Darko for being willing to play these rookies and being so hands-on and developing these rookies as a head coach. That's not certainly very common for most head coaches. The other part is just like the Raptors have had no choice. They've been banged up. Lots of their veterans are out and guys are having to play bigger roles. But at the same time, it's always really exciting. It's always a huge organizational win when you can bring in these rookies, give them that sense of confidence, get them actually time on the floor contributing, and yeah, I mean, it's been really fun watching Jacoby Walter. Most games, is he going to be in the rotation? Probably not when the Raptors are healthy. But honestly, look around the league. Which team is like really healthy like that, right? You're really going to need to go into your depth. Teams are really going to need to be 12, 13 game like players deep in the rotation in order to get through the regular season like in a healthy way, in like a balanced way. And so you are getting this chance to see Jacoby. You're getting a great chance to see Grady this season. Ochai was always going to get a great shot. But even the rookies, Jamal Shed, Jameson Battle, Jonathan Mobo, these guys all have been able to contribute. And it just gives you a sense of hope for the future as well, because if they find some consistency with what they're doing, this could be a really good year. But I mean, honestly, I've said this already, but I think the Raptors front office like actually did a really good job with this draft class. They really need to come away from this draft class with like 3 or 4 hits, and they're kind of on pace to do that. So good for them, seriously. Next question from the what's going on? Next one from Kevin Hill. Would you try to acquire Zion if you were the Raptors? And RJ Zion reunion would be special. Man, how do I say this nicely? When Zion takes off his shirt, it looks like when I take off my shirt, and that's a real issue for me. Like, I think as a 24-year-old, like, obviously he's spectacularly talented. Like, one of the most eye-opening performances I've seen from Zion was when the Raptors played New Orleans in Tampa, and I think it was actually the home opener for Toronto in Tampa. Very ironic phrase, but like he just like cooked OG, and I'm like, OG's like literally probably the best perimeter defender in the entire league, especially for these stronger wings because OG's so strong. And seeing Zion just like take it to him and like go around him and overpower him and like draw fouls on him, I was like, damn, like this guy's like so crazy talented. I remember seeing Zion when he came to Toronto, as part of Duke's preseason tour that year when they had the super hyped up draft class. RJ, Zion, basically the 1 and 2 prospects coming into the nation at that time. They also had Cam Reddish, who was a top 5 recruit, and also Trey Jones, like really, really talented team. And they actually just happened to be playing in Mississauga at the Paramount Fine Food Center, where the 905 play, Hershey Center for long time, I guess, Mississauga people. But Duke came to play preseason there, and they played against, at that time, Ryerson, now TMU. And obviously the big expectation was seeing RJ, and RJ had a really good game. He had like 30 plus, whatever. He was his homecoming. I think he like grew up like probably like 10 kilometers away from Hershey Center. But the big takeaway from everybody watching that was Zion Williamson, and seeing that in person was like crazy. I think what I wrote about that game when I went to cover it was like Zion looked like a refrigerator packed with dynamite. Like that's kind of what it felt like. It was crazy watching him. And I was so excited to see what he would do in the league. Obviously, he had a really good year in Duke as a freshman until he blew his shoe out with Obama sitting courtside. Again, very strange sequences, but whatever. It's just been really unfortunate. Yeah, he's had the injuries, but it's like a lot of part of taking care of the injuries is taking care of your body so that, especially as a pro athlete, you can go through an 82-game grind and stay healthy. Nobody does the talent. He's so talented. And like a healthy Zion, even last year, was really, really good. Like we're talking like 60+% shooting, going to the basket, ball handling. He'll play some small ball 5 for you. Even when he gets a 3 ball going, it's an absolute just like gravy on top of, everything. But it's like, I mean, that's kind of the issue, man. Like, come on, man. Like I almost feel like, I mean, whatever. Zion's got his own things, but it's like, I almost feel as a basketball fan, when I see Zion, like I feel like I'm cheated out of like a generational player. And the fact that we didn't even get to see anything come of it, like at least with Embiid, he's like he also had lots of injuries to start his career, but like he overcame that and then he became a great player. And like say what you want about Embiid, obviously no one's a big Embiid fan as a Raptor fan, but like you still got to respect the fact that he like made himself and worked to get healthier and has the talent to sort of produce. Like I feel like I'm just getting robbed with the Zion experience. I'm sure the Pelicans certainly feel like they're getting robbed with the Zion experience, but no, I mean, honestly, no. I mean, no. I mean, as a Raptor fan, like, no, I don't think so. I really don't want to sign up for this, especially if it's on the hook for a max amount of money. So no, I'm just disappointed as a basketball fan. Ian writes in: Is Davion the most lovable and cool player off the court? The way he inserts himself in all interviews, photos, and situations with his positive attitude, yet the most annoying for the same reason. I think with Davion, he's been a good cultural fit. He seems like a really good pro. He seems to get along with people. I like his interviews as well. He speaks pretty openly. He will give you depth in the answers that he gives to. He's quite thoughtful. I think for me, he's just like a pretty ideal backup point guard. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think that that's sort of like been what he's been ever since he's come into the league. There's not enough offensive creation there as from the point guard position to sort of sustain as a starting player, even arguably as a backup player. But I think for me, what he does really well are the other things, right? Like, he's certainly very unselfish, although it's certainly easier to be unselfish when you can't necessarily create for yourself. But like, he certainly has a good, pick and roll game with Jakob. Certainly knows how to set other guys up. Defensively, he's excellent. Especially love his on-ball defense. Gets into these guys' jerseys. Late in games, we've seen Darko trust them, right? And you think back to the Minnesota win, which is probably their best win of the season, although there's only 5 wins to choose from. But like, he was entrusted to go back into the game late in the game, and he was guarding Anthony Edwards. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so those things are good from Davion. The thing is just like, he's obviously got to get more consistent and probably extend his range as a 3-point shooter. Right now, he's mostly catch and shoot, standstill 3-point shooter, which is already a pretty low mark in general. He's also kind of like a toes on the line 3-point shooter. Like there's not a lot of range where he can shoot it from like 30. You know what I mean? But like ultimately, yeah, these are the ideal attributes of a backup point guard. So it's like between him and Jamal Shed going forward, but. Yeah, but Davion's a really likable dude. Like I think in general, I think that's the question. And yeah, I agree. Next one from Biggie35. What are the chances the Raptors invest in acquiring another traditional backup center? I would love for the Raptors to like acquire a young center who they can start growing and molding to be Jakob Poeltl's successor. There's certainly nobody on the roster that can currently do that. When Kelly Olynyk's available to play, and hopefully soon, like that will be your center platoon. But like Kelly's 34 and Jakob's like 29, I think. So it's like, there are no young bigs in the pipeline that are immediately able to contribute. You could put Jonathan Mobile there as a small ball center, but that's sort of like a niche look. You know what I mean? That's like you're going small specifically. You could put Scotty there sometimes, but honestly, like I think they want to really develop his on-ball ability. You see the way they're playing him right now. And then, of course, there's Alwar Shamshay with the 905, and he's doing decently down there, but it's just like, it depends on how quickly he's able to sort of grow into that kind of role. Ultimately, especially if they keep Darko long-term as the coach and sort of like establish and maintain the type of offense that they're running, they're going to really need a traditional center, but in the sense that like you need really, really like strong screening. I think that's one of the most underrated things that Jakob brings is the fact that he's able to like really create separation for his guards off the screen. He creates that pocket for himself after he screens the ball handlers, man. That's obviously when he's effective on that bounce pass to the pocket. He's also able to seal guys on his rolls to the basket. We've seen a lot of that, him doing that for Scotty, him doing that for RJ, kind of like an offensive lineman, clearing out a path for the running back to go down. Like, it's kind of like that. Does a good job with that. And then he's also pretty solid with the ball in the sense that you can like give him the ball in the post and you can trust him to distribute. Like today, he threw an alley-oop, for example. So like, those are the skills that they kind of really need. And then on the defensive end, he's a pretty strong rebounder, especially on both ends. Offensively, he's actually been a great rebounder this year. And then, like rim protection, he's typically been pretty good at it. This year, I don't feel like he's like particularly good as a rim protector. He's probably closer to average, but historically, he's been a strong rim protector. Yeah, if you could replicate those skills, it'd be great. I mean, ideally, you can get a small ball 5 in terms of somebody who can stretch it. I don't know. That's more a bonus skill. I mean, for me, I'm looking for strong screener. I'm looking for strong rebounder, strong shot blocker. And if you can shoot the 3, pretty good. But just another young big would be really nice. Next one from OG3 is Jameson Battle a better defender than RJ Barrett? I mean, what are we really asking here? I mean, like both guys are not strong defenders right now. The one thing with Jameson I'm happy with is that start of the season, he was just fouling everything. He was a step slow. He was grabbing a lot with his hands, and it just led to like a lot of fouls, like a lot of fouls from him early on. I think for RJ, I feel like you can always tell where RJ is focused on. So sometimes most times he's focused on scoring, right? Like most times he's focused on, okay, I'm going to score and how can I get to the point where I can score? Sometimes you can see that he's focused on like, I'm going to be a decoy. I'm going to look to score and then I'm going to pass. Right, you saw the second quarter when he set Ochai up on 3 of those drives. He certainly fooled the defense into thinking he was going to drive and to score, but all 3 times you could tell that he had the pass in mind for that. What's rare for me is when I could see RJ like focused in on the defensive end, and like that's sort of the priority. You know what I mean? And I feel like honestly, RJ. Like there are a couple of things maybe holding him back. Like I think sometimes his footwork is not entirely the smoothest. Or like, when guards cross him up a little bit and he's got to change directions, like he's not as fast with that. But like, I'm also not hearing that as an excuse really, because he's 24 years old. He's pretty athletic, just in general. He's certainly athletic going to the basket. Like these things, and he's strong too. Like he's not small. Like I think there's lots of things he can do with his positioning and anticipation. But a lot of that is just like, it takes a lot of focus to do that. And I think for RJ, like, tracking cutters off ball, like there's a lot of basic things that I think that he can do and that we should expect him to do. I think for me, the goal for RJ should be to like first become like an average defender, just defend your position decently. And I've seen him do it for certain stretches, for important moments in the playoffs. I've seen some good performances defensively from RJ, when he was with the Knicks or when he was with Team Canada. I've seen him have some good defensive performances. I'm not expecting to be a shutdown wing or anything, but at least, be able to sort of like cover your assignments. Because otherwise, RJ's a very useful player. And he's shown that to be many times this season. So as a young player, it's just continue to grow. And again, like he's not always going to be the number one option to have the ball. So it's like the other ways you contribute. And I feel like this is a common thing for a lot of young players. It's like their whole life up to that point from like, I don't know, 10 to like 25-ish. They're like you are 21, 22-ish when they're used to being the number one guy. And that's why they get drafted. And then you go to your job and they're like, actually, I know you got this degree in like economics, but what we need you to do is like get coffee and set meetings for people and show up on time every day and put in extra hours. Like a lot of people get hired to do a job that they don't necessarily actually were the ones that they were training for. That's just life, you know what I mean? But like ultimately you got to be good at that stuff. And honestly, if you're good at that stuff, you get more chances to do what you actually want. So yeah, I mean Archie's pretty nice. So I would love to see him improve. Next one for Raptors moments. Shout out Raptors moments. What are you expecting from Everton's new owners? Who are Everton's new owners? I actually don't even know, to be honest. I mean, there's only one team in Liverpool that I'm concerned with. Liverpool, baby, top of the Champions League standings, top of the Premier League standings. A big 2-0 win over Real Madrid today at Anfield. Big shouts to Alexis McAllister for the first goal. Big shouts to Cody Gakpo for the second goal. Hilarious to watch Mbappe get completely pocketed by Connor Bradley, who is our second choice right back. And I just hope everything's okay for Ibrahima Konate. Seemed like he got an injury at the end there. But yeah, it's been beautiful watching Liverpool. I mean, Everton, I don't know, man. I mean, no matter what they do, they're going to be struggling for relegation every year. It's actually really sad to look at, but that's honestly none of my concern outside of my former producer, Derek Brandeo. He is a very faithful Everton fan, and it's just very easy to banter him. But shouts to Raptors moments, by the way, man. Love your channel. You know I'm a fan. Anyway, Michael Austin, question: when does the Wongstradamus hoodies drop? When do they drop? Jerome, can you? Oh, there we go. Might post a question about Wongstradamus hoodies. Might be as early as this weekend. Tease the Black Friday sale coming. That's right. There actually is going to be a sale for Black Friday for the site on which you can buy our merch. Jerome, if you can just also put in a link to where people can buy this merch. Sorry, I'm not that tapped in. Listen, I'm tapped into the Raptors. I'm tapped into giving you a game recap every night. I'm tapped into giving you, pods, over the course of a week. Obviously, shouts to the Banter Pod. If you haven't seen it already, that was a really good episode. I had a great time. It's always nice to just like take your focus away from the Raptors and just have a good vibe. I believe it's nationgear.ca. Yeah, but anyway, we have a Wongstradamus hoodie that we're selling. It'll be I've actually seen we've got our hands on the first cycle of them. We've seen me wear it actually in the Banter Pod, but I've seen it on Jerome. I've seen it on Alex. It looks pretty good, and of course the running joke is that Alex loves to pretend like he is an NBA insider. He loves to pretend like he has all these scoops and he knows quite a bit, and honestly he does. Wanj is a real thing, and Wongstradamus is a cousin of Wanj actually, because he also loves making predictions at the start of every season. He likes to predict all 82 games and sort of how they're going to go. Oh my God, Jerome, why? This is such a jump scare. Yeah, you can get the trucker hat as well. Hello, welcome trucker hat. Hello, welcome laptop stickers. Now we got hello, welcome hoodies. That will be Alex's hoodie. There will be one that will be, I guess, a design pattern after something I do and something for Jerome as well. So, Black Friday, man. Pull your wallets out. You know what I mean? But I mean, this was fun. Thanks for all the questions. Really appreciate it. Thanks to the Raptors for coming in and giving you a great performance so that we can actually talk about a win. I'm just asking for one win a week. I think you could still get pretty good lottery odds if you get one win a week and you get some development from the young guys. And today, honestly, there was no situation where the Raptors could have lost the Pelicans. Like, they were that sad, but I'm happy that we got to see these young guys in particular get their spotlight. So in terms of your 3 stars to wrap up, your first star is going to it's calling it Jameson Battle, man. 24 points, 9 of 11 shooting, 22 points, 6 of 8 from 3. If I might humbly suggest, that actually looked a lot like what I did yesterday at the pickup run, although I had 28 for the record, 8 threes plus 2 twos. Next star is going to go to Ochai Agbaji, 24 points, 9 of 10 shooting, 6 of 7 from 3, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, a steal. Did a good job defensively, kept the lid on DeJounte Murray, although DeJounte was also very insistent on taking horrible shots. And also Ochai responded really nicely to Darko's call out, did a great job. And I also think more than anything else, the maturity to like take it in stride, not be mad at it, and just try to sort of focus on what the coach wanted from him was great. And he did almost like a perfect Ochai game, really. So I'm happy for him. Game high 24 for him. And then your third star, I'm going to give that to Jacoby Walter. Yeah, I mean, RJ was probably their third best player tonight, maybe even second best player. But like Jacoby, in the first career start, goes plus 31, goes 14 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 6 of 14 from the field, 2 of 10 from 3. That'll come up. I know he's a better shooter than that, but like shot the ball well, rebounded the ball well, played energy. It was great to see him sort of showcase what he has as well. So those are your 3 stars. Your Gerald Henderson Award winner, that's going to go to Yves Missi, the Pelicans center. I thought he did a great job of just protecting the basket as much as he could. He changed a lot of shots. He fouled like a decent amount. Actually, no, he didn't foul at all, right? Yeah. He actually did it. I just thought like his timing was pretty good. He got a couple of goaltends, I felt like, but like, yeah, 11 points, 5 rebounds, 2 blocks, a steal. He was certainly somebody that at the 19th pick, I think he was, in that range where the Raptors had to be considering him. 7-foot center out of Cameroon. He's got a really cool family background as well. So I mean, like, he was certainly a guy that I could have thought the Raptors would have considered because the Raptors needed depth at center. But again, they didn't expect Jacoby to be there at 19. So again, whatever. But like, Yves, I thought played really well. And, we'll see sort of how his career tracks with the Pelicans. I'm not going to lie to you. Outside of the 2 games the Raptors played in New Orleans this year, I don't think I'll be tapping into too many Pelicans games. But I also just hope for their franchise that they get healthy. Because, like, you look at some of the players they had out there tonight, man. Who is Antonio Reeves, number 12? That sounds like a New York Jet. Jeremiah Robinson Earl, number 50. Like, come on, man. Daniel Tice, Trey Jameson the third. I mean, they didn't even have the best Jameson in the game. We had Trey Jameson. Yo, Jameson Battle should be called Trey Jameson, man. Trey Jameson the third. Come on, man. This is like Javonte Green. They're starting him. Brandon Boston Jr. Like, I feel so bad for them because they've been so banged up. But like, still, Raptors did a good job tonight and came through with the result. Finally, your most important guy, that is brought to you by Greta Bar YYZ. If you haven't heard already, Greta Bar YYZ is a great place to go pre-game, post-game, during the game to watch live sports and your Raptors in particular. It's at 590 King Street West, and it's right in the heart of the city. And of course, it's a great barcade. You get great food, great drinks. And of course, if you ever get tired of just watching sports, you can also hit up the arcade games at Greta Bar YYZ. Shouts to Greta for sponsoring the program. Your most important guy from this game. Who is your most important guy from this game? Honestly, I thought Jack had a really good game on the broadcast. Shouts to Jack Armstrong on the broadcast, especially when games kind of go south. Whether it's a blowout for the Raptors or a blowout against the Raptors, feel like Jack does a great job of just keeping the conversation entertaining. Him and obviously Matt have the banter going on, but like I thought Jack also did a great job of just calling out like some of the bad habits from the Pelicans and whatever. Like they lost by 30, so it's like it is what it is. But yeah, shouts to Jack, man, and hopefully we can get Jack on a future program here at Hello and Welcome, because that was one of the things when we were doing Raptor show. Can't talk to TSN guys on the show. Never got a chance to talk to Jack. I talked to him before with Yahoo, but Jack's a great person, super warm, super generous with his time. And hopefully we'll be speaking to Jack in a future episode. I know people will love that. Big shouts to Jerome Chang for producing this program and also every program here at Hello and Welcome. We work this man 7 days a week and occasionally give him a birthday party. But he also tells us that Ochai Agbaji was the one who got the chain. Happy for Ochai. Happy that the Raptors got their first road win of the season. That chain had not been pulled out in, I believe, 10 straight road games, but they got the win tonight, and they get to go relax enjoy Thanksgiving in the States. Obviously, hopefully the players are able to, travel and get to family, or even, spend some time together. And yeah, they'll be back in action later this week. And that means the Raptors Reaction Podcast will be back in action later this week. Again, if you want to tune in live in particular, make sure you just hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. It'll give you a notification. You don't have to see it on Twitter where it's like I tweeted out and you may catch it or not, whatever. Also, who's using Twitter these days? Subscribe to it. You get a notification. You can hop in. You can leave questions and just engage too, because I know a lot of people are not even here to just hear me talk. They're here to talk to each other as well. So whatever you want. But last reminder, if you've enjoyed this stream, just hit like on your way out. It, again, just really helps the algorithm push it in the morning after for the people who watch it the morning after. But otherwise, thanks all for listening. Big shouts to all our sponsors. Salute to Dominion Lending for hopping aboard. And this has been the Hello and Welcome Podcast presented by Betway.